Welcome back, beautiful souls. Today I'm sharing a story that honestly gave me chills when I first heard it. It's about a single dad who was rushing to his daughter's ballet recital when he accidentally overheard his boss crying in a storage room. What she was confessing on that phone call was something she had hidden for years, and the moment their eyes met, everything between them shifted forever. This story has unexpected twists, emotional moments that might make you tear up, and a reminder that love sometimes finds us in the most unlikely places. So grab your coffee or tea, get cozy, and let's dive into this incredible journey together. And hey, if this story touches your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances today. Marcus had exactly 7 minutes before his daughter's ballet recital, and his boss was nowhere to be found. He'd been searching the entire third floor of Whitmore and Associates for 20 minutes, clutching a quarterly report that needed her signature before the Tokyo office opened. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as he checked the conference rooms one by one, each empty space ratcheting up his anxiety. His phone buzzed again, another text from his mother, who was saving him a seat in the auditorium. Then he heard it. A voice drifting from the partially open door of the corner storage room. Not just any voice. Victoria Ashford's voice, and she was crying. Marcus froze mid-step, his hand already reaching for the door handle. In 3 years of working as her senior financial analyst, he had never, not once, heard Victoria Ashford cry. The woman was legendary for her composure, famous for delivering layoff announcements with the same calm efficiency she used to order her morning coffee. The other executives called her the Ice Queen, behind her back, and not always unkindly. It was a compliment to her negotiation skills. But right now, Victoria Ashford was sobbing into what sounded like a phone call, and Marcus heard something that made his blood run cold. "I know it's my fault," she was saying, her voice cracked and raw. "I know I destroyed everything, and now he's gonna find out the truth. And when he does, he's gonna hate me. He's gonna hate me the same way everyone else does." Marcus's hand dropped from the door handle. He should leave. This was private, clearly personal, absolutely none of his business. He was already late for Sophie's recital, the one she'd been practicing for 3 months, the one she'd made him promise he wouldn't miss no matter what. But something held him there. Maybe it was the desperation in Victoria's voice, so different from the woman who had once made a grown man cry during a budget meeting. Maybe it was the curiosity that had always gotten him into trouble. Ever since he was a kid growing up in his grandmother's house in Detroit, always asking questions he shouldn't ask, always finding answers he wasn't supposed to find. Or maybe it was because he recognized something in her voice, the same hopeless, drowning sound he'd made in those dark months after his divorce, when he'd wondered if he was even capable of being a good father anymore. Victoria's voice continued, and Marcus heard her say something that made him take a sharp breath. "I've been lying to him for 3 years. Every single day I've looked him in the eye and lied." Him. She was talking about a man. A man she'd been lying to for 3 years. Marcus thought about the timeline. 3 years. He'd been working for Victoria for exactly 3 years. He'd been hired the same month she took over as director of operations. Brought in by her specifically to clean up the financial mess left by the previous administration. Was she talking about him? The logical part of his brain immediately dismissed the idea. Victoria barely seemed to notice him most days, beyond signing off on his reports and occasionally nodding at him in the elevator. Their interactions were purely professional, quarterly reviews, budget meetings, the occasional departmental lunch where she sat at one end of the table and he sat at the other. But then why was his heart pounding like this? His phone buzzed again. His mother. "Sophia's looking for you. Where are you?" Marcus made a split-second decision. He stepped backward, deliberately letting his heel scuff against the industrial carpet, making enough noise to announce his presence. He cleared his throat loudly and called out, "Ms. Ashford. Are you here? I have the quarterly report." The voice inside the storage room went silent. He heard a muffled sound, like someone taking a sharp breath, and then rapid movement. The door swung open, and Victoria Ashford stood there, her eyes red-rimmed and her mascara slightly smudged, holding her phone in a death grip. For one endless moment, they just looked at each other. Marcus had always thought of Victoria as beautiful in an untouchable way, like a painting in a museum, something to be admired from a distance but never approached. She was tall and blonde, with sharp cheekbones and ice, blue eyes that could freeze a room with a single glance. At 42, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had clawed her way to success through sheer determination, and the rumors about her rise through the corporate ranks were legendary. But right now, standing in the doorway of a storage room with tears drying on her face, she looked human, fragile even. And Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a tectonic movement that would change everything that came after. "Mr. Thompson," she said, and her voice was almost steady. Almost. "Is there something you need?" "The quarterly report," he said, holding up the folder. "It needs your signature before Tokyo opens." Victoria stared at the folder like she'd never seen one before. Then she'd let out a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. "The quarterly report," she repeated. "Of course. The world is ending, but we still need the quarterly report signed." Marcus didn't know what to say to that. The world is ending. What did that mean? "I can come back later," he offered, already stepping backward. "Or tomorrow, Tokyo can wait?" "No." Victoria's voice was sharp, commanding, back to its usual authority. "Give me the folder. I'll sign it now." She reached out, and that's when Marcus saw her hand was shaking. He looked at her, really looked at her, for maybe the first time in 3 years, and he made another split-second decision, the kind of decision that his grandmother would have called sticking his nose where it doesn't belong, and his therapist would have called having healthy emotional boundaries issues. "Ms. Ashford," he said quietly, "are you okay?" Victoria's composure cracked. It was just for a second, just the briefest flicker in those blue eyes, but Marcus saw it. He saw the fear underneath the armor, the exhaustion beneath the confidence. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice trembled. "You're not fine," Marcus said. "You're crying in a storage room. And I don't know what's going on, but—" He paused, struggling for the right words. His phone buzzed again in his pocket. Sophie. The recital. He was already so late. "But sometimes," he continued, "helps to talk to someone. Even if that someone is just the guy who does your quarterly reports." Victoria looked at him for a long moment. Then, incredibly, she laughed. It was a real laugh, surprised and genuine, and it transformed her face entirely. "You're either very brave or very stupid," she said. "Most people in this building won't even look me in the eye." "I've been called both," Marcus admitted. "Sometimes in the same sentence." Victoria's expression softened. She leaned against the doorframe, and suddenly she didn't look like the feared director of operations. She looked like a woman who was tired and scared and desperately alone. "What's your daughter's name?" she asked unexpectedly. Marcus blinked at the change of subject. "Sophie. She's 8. "How did you know?" "You have a picture of her on your desk. The one from the zoo with the penguin costume." Victoria smiled slightly. "She has your smile." Marcus felt warmth spread through his chest. He hadn't realized Victoria had ever noticed the photo, let alone looked at it closely enough to see the resemblance. "She's got a ballet recital tonight," he said. "I was supposed to be there 20 minutes ago." Victoria's eyes widened. "Then what are you doing here?" "Looking for you." The report can wait." Victoria took the folder from his hands and scribbled her signature without even looking at it. "Go. Be with your daughter." Marcus hesitated. "But you?" "I'll be fine," Victoria said, and this time her voice was steadier. "Go. Don't miss her recital." Marcus wanted to argue, but his phone was buzzing again, and Sophie was waiting, and he could still hear the echo of Victoria's sobs in his mind. He nodded, took the signed folder, and turned to leave. "Mr. Thompson." He looked back. Victoria was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for asking if I was okay. No one ever asks me that." Before Marcus could respond, his phone rang. It was his mother, and her voice was frantic. "Marcus, you need to get here right now. Something's happened." Sophie fell during practice. "She's at the hospital?" Marcus's world tilted sideways. The next hour was a blur of hospital corridors and fluorescent lights, and the smell of antiseptic that always made him think of death. Sophie had fallen from the stage during the final rehearsal, landed wrong on her ankle, and broken it in 2 places. She was in surgery now, a minor procedure to set the bones. But Marcus was pacing the waiting room like a caged animal, his heart hammering against his ribs. He called his ex-wife, Denise, who was on a business trip in Chicago, and immediately burst into tears. He called his mother, who was sitting beside him, pretending to read a magazine while watching him with worried eyes. He called his grandmother's number before remembering, with a fresh stab of grief. that she'd been gone for 2 years now. And then, impossibly, Victoria Ashford walked into the waiting room. Marcus stared at her. She was still wearing her work clothes. A perfectly tailored black blazer and pencil skirt, but she'd clearly been running. Her hair was slightly disheveled, and she was clutching a stuffed penguin that Marcus recognized from the gift shop downstairs. "How did you know?" he started. "I heard you on the phone in the elevator," Victoria said. "I followed you. Is she okay?" Marcus's mother was looking between them with undisguised curiosity, but Marcus barely noticed. He was too focused on the fact that his boss, the Ice Queen herself, had followed him to a hospital and bought a stuffed penguin for his daughter. "She broke her ankle," he said. "She's in surgery now. It's routine," they said, but she's your baby, and nothing about this feels routine." Victoria finished. She sat down beside him close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "I understand. Do you?" Marcus asked and immediately regretted the sharpness in his voice. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean." "You meant it," Victoria said. "And you're right to wonder. I don't have children. I don't have anyone, really." She was quiet for a moment. "But I know what it's like to wait in a hospital, praying that the person you love most in the world makes it through." Marcus looked at her. "Oh, my brother," Victoria said, "was in an accident when I was 17. Drunk driver hit him while he was on his bike. He was in surgery for 11 hours. Did he? He survived. But he was never the same. Brain damage. He lives in a care facility now, in Vermont. I visit him every weekend." Victoria's voice was flat, reciting facts, but Marcus could hear the pain underneath. "That's what the phone call was about. The facility is closing. They're moving him, and they won't tell me where, and I'm terrified he's going to end up somewhere that doesn't understand him. That doesn't take care of him the way he needs." Marcus felt something crack inside him. All those rumors about Victoria Ashford, the Ice Queen, the ruthless executive who cared about nothing but profits and power, and all this time she'd been carrying this weight alone. "I'm sorry," he said. "I had no idea." "No one does?" Victoria looked at him, and her eyes were soft in a way he'd never seen before. "I don't tell people. It's easier that way. Less vulnerability." "That sounds lonely," Marcus said. Victoria was quiet for a moment. "It is," she admitted. "But it's safer." Marcus thought about his own walls, the ones he'd built after his divorce. The way he kept people at arm's length, claiming it was to protect Sophie, when really it was to protect himself from ever being hurt again. "I understand that," he said. "More than you might think." Before Victoria could respond, the surgery doors opened and a doctor in blue scrubs stepped out. Marcus jumped to his feet, his heart in his throat. "Mr. Thompson? Sophie's out of surgery?" Everything went perfectly. She's asking for her dad. Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. His mother was crying beside him, squeezing his arm, and Victoria was smiling, actually smiling, and everything felt impossibly, wonderfully right. "Can I see her?" he asked. "Of course. Room 412. Marcus turned to Victoria, not sure what to say. "Thank you" seemed inadequate. She'd driven to a hospital for a child she'd never met, bought a stuffed penguin, and shared a secret she'd kept hidden for years. "Come with me," he said impulsively. Victoria's eyes widened. "What?" "Come meet Sophie. She'll love the penguin. She's obsessed with penguins." "I don't want to intrude." "You're not intruding. I'm inviting you." Marcus held out his hand. "Please." Victoria looked at his hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, she took it. If you're feeling moved by Marcus and Victoria's story right now, take a second to hit that like button. And if you want to see how this unexpected connection unfolds, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens next. Sophie was propped up in the hospital bed, her tiny ankle wrapped in a bright pink cast, looking indignant rather than scared. She had Marcus's dark curly hair and his stubborn jaw, but her eyes were all denice, big and brown and impossibly expressive. "Daddy," she said when Marcus walked in. "They gave me a popsicle, but it was grape. And you know I hate grape." Marcus laughed, relief flooding through him. She was okay. She's going to be okay. "I'll get you a cherry one," he promised, leaning down to kiss her forehead. "How's the ankle?" "It hurts. But the doctor said I can get stickers for my cast. And everyone in my class has to sign it." Sophie spotted Victoria hovering in the doorway. "Who's that?" Marcus looked back at Victoria, who was clutching the stuffed penguin like a shield. "This is Miss Ashford. She works with me. She's pretty," Sophie said matter-of-factly. "Is she your girlfriend?" Marcus choked. Behind him he heard Victoria make a sound that might have been a laugh. "No, sweetheart. She's my boss." "Oh," Sophie considered this. My teacher says the boss is the person in charge. Are you in charge of my daddy? Victoria stepped forward, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. Most of the time, she said, but not tonight. Tonight, I think you're in charge, Sophie grinned. I like her, she announced. Then she spotted the penguin. Is that for me? If you want it, Victoria said, holding it out. I heard you like penguins. I love penguins. Sophie hugged the stuffed animal to her chest. His name is Fernando. Victoria repeated, her smile growing. That's a very sophisticated name. It means adventurer? Sophie said seriously. I learned it from a book. Marcus watched the exchange with a warmth spreading through his chest. Victoria was different with Sophie, softer, more open, almost playful. The Ice Queen was nowhere to be seen. In her place was someone else entirely, someone Marcus wanted very much to know better. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. It started small. Victoria checking in on Sophie's recovery, asking Marcus how she was doing during their morning meetings. Then it became coffee runs, Victoria bringing Marcus's favorite order without being asked. Then it was lunch together in her office, door closed, talking about everything and nothing. Marcus learned that Victoria had grown up in a small town in Maine, the oldest of 4 children, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep them fed. He learned that she'd put herself through college and business school, working nights at a diner, determined to build a life that was nothing like her childhood. He learned that she was terrified of spiders, addicted to true crime podcasts, and had a secret talent for baking sourdough bread. And Victoria learned about Marcus, about his grandmother who raised him after his mother left, teaching him to cook and to read and to never, ever give up on the people he loved. About his marriage to Denise, which had started with so much hope and ended with so much silence. About the dark months after the divorce, when he'd wondered if he was strong enough to be a single father, if Sophie would be better off without him. She's lucky to have you, Victoria said one evening, when they were working late on a project and Sophie was staying with his mother. You know that, right? Marcus shrugged. I fail a lot? Failing is part of trying. Victoria leaned back in her chair, studying him. You're harder on yourself than you should be? That's funny, coming from the woman who works 17-hour days and calls herself a failure for taking a lunch break. Victoria's lips quirked. Fair point. There was a moment of silence, charged with something Marcus couldn't name. Then Victoria's phone rang, shattering the tension. Marcus watched her face change as she answered, saw the fear flash across her features before she locked it down. She spoke in clipped sentences, nodding, her free hand clenched into a fist. When she hung up, she was pale. What is it? Marcus asked. The new facility, Victoria said. They're not taking Daniel. They say he's too high need, too expensive too. She broke off, her voice cracking. I have to find somewhere else. But everywhere I call, it's the same story. Nobody wants him. Nobody wants to deal with the complications, the expense, hey. Marcus reached across the desk and took her hand. It was trembling. We'll figure it out. There is no, Victoria said, but she didn't pull away. This is my problem. My burden. I've carried it for 25 years and I'll carry it alone. Why? Marcus asked. Why do you have to carry it alone? Victoria looked at him and he saw something break behind her eyes. Not dramatically, not all at once, but a slow crumbling, like a wall that had been standing too long. Because that's what I do, she whispered. I carry things alone. It's who I am. It doesn't have to be. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. And then Victoria did something that Marcus never would have predicted in a million years. She leaned across the desk and kissed him. It was a soft kiss, tentative, like a question. Marcus felt his heart stop, then restart at double speed. He kissed her back, his hand coming up to cup her face, and for one perfect moment, the rest of the world fell away. Then Victoria pulled back, her eyes wide with shock. I'm sorry, she said. I shouldn't have. You work for me. This is completely inappropriate. Victoria. Marcus waited until she looked at him. I've been wanting to do that for weeks. Her breath caught. You have. Since the hospital. Maybe before. I don't know. Marcus laughed softly. I just know that when I'm with you, I feel like myself. Like I don't have to pretend to be someone else. Victoria's eyes glistened. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I don't know how to let someone in. I've been alone for so long. Then we'll figure it out together, Marcus said. If you want to. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, she smiled. I want to, she said. I really, really want to? but what they didn't know was that someone had been watching. And that someone was about to make their lives very, very complicated. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts so far. Have you ever found connection in the most unexpected place? The someone was Jennifer Price, head of human resources, and she had seen Marcus and Victoria kissing through the glass wall of the office. Jennifer had been angling for Victoria's position for years, watching and waiting for any slip up that could give her an advantage. And now she had evidence of what appeared to be an inappropriate workplace relationship between the director of operations and one of her subordinates. The complaint landed on the CEO's desk the next morning. Marcus found out when security escorted him to a meeting room where Victoria was already sitting, pale-faced and rigid. The CEO, a silver-haired man named Robert Whitmore, who had founded the company 40 years ago, was watching them both with an unreadable expression. "I'm sure you know why you're here," Robert said. "There's been a misunderstanding," Victoria started, but Robert held up a hand. "I'm not interested in excuses. I'm interested in facts." He looked at Marcus. "Mr. Thompson, is it true that you and Ms. Ashford are engaged in a romantic relationship?" Marcus felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He thought about lying, about protecting his job, about the precarious balance of being a single father with bills to pay and a daughter to support. But then he looked at Victoria, and he saw the fear in her eyes. The fear of being alone again, of having the first person she'd let in be ripped away by circumstances beyond her control. And Marcus realized that some things were more important than job security. "Yes," he said clearly. "It's true." Robert's eyebrows rose. "I appreciate your honesty." "What happens now?" Victoria asked, her voice strained. Robert was quiet for a moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. "What happens now?" he said. "That I tell you a story?" 40 years ago, Robert Whitmore had been a junior accountant at a small firm. He'd fallen in love with the CEO's daughter, a woman everyone said was out of his league, a woman whose father threatened to fire him if he didn't stay away. He married her anyway. She was his partner in building this company, his best friend, the love of his life for 38 years until cancer took her last spring. "Life is short," Robert said quietly. "And love, real love, the kind that survives storms and setbacks and skeptics, that love is rare. I won't be the one to destroy it." He turned to Jennifer Price, who was waiting in the corner with barely concealed triumph on her face. "The complaint is dismissed," Robert said. "And Jennifer, you're fired." Jennifer's face went white. "What? You can't." "I can, and I am. This company doesn't have room for people who try to tear others down instead of building them up." Robert nodded to security. "Please escort Ms. Price out." As Jennifer was led away, sputtering and protesting, Marcus felt Victoria's hand slip into his. He looked at her, saw tears streaming down her face, and realized he was crying too. "We're okay," he whispered. "We're gonna be okay?" Finding a facility for Daniel took 3 more months, but they did it together. Marcus used his analytical skills to research every option, running the numbers, comparing costs, identifying the facilities with the best outcomes. Victoria made phone calls, wrote appeals, leveraged every connection she'd built over her 20-year career. And when they finally found a place, a small, family-run home in Vermont that specialized in brain injury patients, they drove there together, Sophie in the back seat making up stories about Fernando the penguin's adventures. Daniel was sitting in the garden when they arrived. He didn't recognize Victoria at first. The damage from the accident had taken many of his memories. But when she sat beside him and started telling their childhood jokes, something in his face shifted. "Vicky," he said, the old nickname for his sister. "You came." "I always come," Victoria said, tears streaming down her face. "I'll always come." Sophie waddled over on her newly healed ankle and offered Daniel Fernando to hold. He looked at the stuffed penguin with wonder, turning it over in his hands like it was the most precious thing in the world. "He's an adventurer," Sophie explained seriously. "Just like you." That night, driving back to the city, Sophie fell asleep in the back seat, and Marcus and Victoria talked in low voices about the future. "I want this," Victoria said quietly. "All of it." "You, Sophie, whatever comes next. I've spent my whole life building walls, and you've somehow demolished all of them. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" "It's terrifying," Victoria admitted, "but also wonderful, like finally coming home." Marcus reached for her hand in the darkness. "My grandmother used to say that home isn't a place, it's a person. I think I understand that now." Victoria squeezed his fingers. "You're my home, Marcus. You and Sophie. I never thought I'd have that." Well, you're stuck with us now, Marcus said. Sophie's already planning our wedding. She wants a penguin ice sculpture. Victoria laughed. I think I can make that happen. The wedding was small, just family and close friends, but Sophie got her penguin ice sculpture. She also got to be the flower girl, hobbling down the aisle in a pink dress with Fernando tucked under her arm. Marcus's mother cried through the entire ceremony. Daniel came, escorted by 2 caregivers from his new facility, and smiled through the whole thing even though he probably didn't fully understand what was happening. And when the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, and Marcus kissed Victoria for the first time as her husband, Sophie cheered so loudly that she startled a flock of pigeons outside the window. At the reception, Marcus pulled Victoria aside for a quiet moment. I never thought I'd be here, he admitted. After Denise left, I thought I was done. I thought that part of my life was over. And now, Victoria asked, now I realize it wasn't ending. It was just a redirection. The universe pushing me towards something better. He touched her face gently. Pushing me toward you. Victoria kissed him softly. I love you, Marcus Thompson. I love you too, Victoria Thompson. She laughed. That's gonna take some getting used to. We've got time, Marcus said. We've got the rest of our lives. This story is inspired by something that happened to someone I know. A single father who overheard his boss crying in a supply closet and chose kindness over distance. Sometimes the smallest acts of compassion can change everything. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe. And comment below telling me where you're watching from today. I love seeing how this community spans the whole world. 3 years later, Marcus came home from work to find Sophie sitting at the kitchen table, looking very serious. Daddy, she said, I need to tell you something. Marcus's heart skipped. Sophie was 11 now, all gangly limbs and attitude, but she still had those big brown eyes that could make him agree to almost anything. What's wrong, sweetheart? Nothing's wrong. Sophie took a deep breath. But I heard Victoria crying in the bathroom this morning, and I asked her what was wrong, and she said I should talk to you. But she was smiling while she was crying, which doesn't make sense, and I'm very confused. Marcus felt a grin spreading across his face. Did she tell you why she was crying? She said it was a secret. But she said it was a good secret. Sophie narrowed her eyes. Do you know the secret? I do, Marcus said. He sat down across from his daughter. Victoria's pregnant. You're going to be a big sister. Sophie's face went through about 17 different expressions in 2 seconds. Then she leaped out of her chair and tackled Marcus in a hug so fierce it nearly knocked him over. This is the best day of my life, she shrieked. I'm going to teach them everything. I'm going to be the best big sister ever. Can we name them Fernando? Victoria appeared in the kitchen doorway, laughing and crying at the same time. I told you she'd take it well, she said to Marcus. Sophie launched herself at Victoria next, hugging her carefully around the middle. I'm so happy, Sophie said, and her voice was thick with emotion. I'm so happy. Victoria stroked Sophie's hair, looking at Marcus over their daughter's head. In her eyes he saw everything. The lonely woman who'd cried in a storage room, the ice queen who'd built walls around her heart, the partner who'd learned to let love in. And he saw their future, messy and imperfect and absolutely wonderfully full of love. We all are, Victoria said softly. We all are. Some stories begin with a bang, with drama and conflict and impossible odds. But this one began with something smaller, a man who was late, a woman who was crying, and a moment of kindness that changed everything. Marcus never got those 7 minutes back. He missed Sophie's recital, missed seeing her dance on that stage, missed what should have been a perfect memory. But in exchange, he got something better. He got a partner, a co-parent, a best friend, a wife. He got Victoria, and Victoria got something too, something she'd given up hoping for. She got a family. She got people who saw her, really saw her, beyond the armor and the achievements. She got a second chance at the life she'd convinced herself she didn't deserve. The path wasn't always smooth. They fought sometimes about work and parenting, and whose turn it was to deal with Sophie's teenage moods. Victoria struggled with the transition from executive to mother, with the vulnerability of loving people who could hurt her. Marcus had to learn to share his daughter, to expand his definition of family, to trust someone else with his heart again. But they did it, together, because that's what love is, in the end. Not perfection, not fairy tales, not the absence of conflict or fear or doubt. Love is choosing someone every single day. Choosing to be vulnerable, to be honest, to be present. choosing to stay when it would be easier to run. Marcus chose Victoria. Victoria chose Marcus. And together, they built something beautiful. So if you're watching this and you're lonely, if you're struggling, if you've convinced yourself that love isn't in the cards for you, I want you to remember this story. Remember that Marcus was a single dad who thought romance was behind him. Remember that Victoria was an ice queen who'd built walls so high she couldn't see over them. Remember that they found each other in the most unlikely place, in the most unlikely way, and created a life neither of them could have imagined. Love doesn't follow the rules. Love doesn't care about timing or logic or the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we deserve. Love shows up when we least expect it. And when it does, the only thing we have to do is be brave enough to let it in. If this story made you feel something, hope, inspiration, even a few happy tears, please leave a like and subscribe to stay connected. Share your story in the comments below. And tell me, where in the world are you watching from today? I can't wait to hear from you.